Hello and welcome to the Incredible Hulk podcast. We're back again, and we are talking this time about the season one story called "The Hulk Breaks Las Vegas." I don't know why it's called that. Really, it's a very odd title. That "The Hulk Breaks Las Vegas." Well, I mean, he does break up a bit of property, but I don't know. It doesn't break the whole city, or whatever it is. Yeah. Um, so Um, it's starred, of course, Bill Bixby as Dr. David Banner, Lou Ferrigno as the Incredible Hulk, and Jack Colvin as Jack McGee, who has quite a pivotal role in this one. Guest starring Dean Santoro as Ed Campion, Julie Gregg as Wanda, John Crawford as Tom Edler, and Don Marshall as Lee. Directed by Larry Stewart and written by Justin Egerton. And joining me to chat about this is none other than my friend here, Alex. How are you doing there?
Hello, Frank. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. But thanks for joining me, Alex. Now, the opening part of this is, I'm not sure what he's working as there, because I don't think they state it as such. But anyway, David's at this, is sitting at this card table in the casino, talking to the female dealer there, who's giving them cards out and stuff. And he's just kind of messing around there. Then we see this woman at an airport, local airport, who's looking rather nervous. And you can see these two sort of heavies walking, coming towards her and stuff. They've been in loads of the Hulk stories, regular faces. And one of them being Don Marshall. And it's she makes her way to this locker, and she has this sort of package in her hand, and nervously puts it into this locker and leaves, making her way back to the house where this chap called Ed is waiting. And from what I can gather, Alex, it seems like there's evidence in this envelope that can, that has something on these bigwigs in town, including Tom Edler at the casino, and it's like incriminating evidence against them.
Yeah, if I could, Frank. I mean, I did like the episode, and it is actually startling in some ways, if you think about it. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how much you're a fan of it, this has a little bit of the era, whether it's underground or not. But I think it was getting to be known in Las Vegas, Nevada. As we know, they've had a long history of gambling and other vices that you've had to, that have been around in America since the 1940s, whether it's through the mob or not, or the Teamsters or not. And the reason why I say that is because there's documentaries now that have shown that the mob and other criminal elements or other money-making elements have tried to skim, steal money from, embezzle, etc., from 1940s on to the 1980s.
Yeah.
And then in 82, and it says this in the movie Casino by Martin Scorsese, they actually show it in the movie, is they show that they used junk bonds, which was a very bad time in the American stock market and the international stock market, to rebuild most of the casinos, blow up the old ones, blow up the shady vice, adult party, if you know what I'm saying, ambiance of Vegas that was around from the 40s to the 80s, and make it more family oriented. Even though it's still about making money, it's more family oriented. It's more computer, video, type of thing. So what David was actually doing was, and I'm surprised that he actually did it, he's actually being a shrill, which means basically whether you go to a party or you go to a business or you go to anything, you're actually volunteering and getting paid to sort of put your, and I hate to put it this way, Frank, but kind of put your butt in the seat. So, if you go to a store and you're trying to talk about a product or you're trying to buy a product, there's a possibility that you are actually doing that on purpose to try to bring other customers in. You know what I mean? They see you do it, and if you look like you're having a good time, that might entice them to do it. So it's basically, sort of a little bit of a game while you're getting paid for it, but it's a little bit of a game to try to, bring people in, whether it's a gambling or party or food or whatever. It's to entice people.
Are you talking about Phil?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there you are, Susan. I didn't know you were.
Hello, Sue. Sue's just joined us. How are you?
No, not bad. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. Yeah.
Rawr.
Lee, Don Marshall's character, Lee, calls Ed on the phone and is trying to sound all really nice and everything. Can we talk about this? Meet up with my boss, and we can, nice, area. We can have some lunch at the Sahara casino, and we can come to some arrangement. And so he goes, all right then, keep it public so there's loads of people around, nice and easy. So, so basically I'm not gonna whack you, in the film Casino or something. Yeah. So he agrees to do it, and he seems quite surprised that he said yes, but he agrees to go there to see them. David, meanwhile, goes to lunch with the lady friend that he met, and they have a nice club sandwich, nice potato crisps, chips as you call them.
Yeah, that's what we call them. That's true.
I love the subtleties in our language. The differences. Like you call them potato chips, we call them crisps.
And you call French fries potato, or you could call French fries.
Yeah, we call them chips. Yeah, because Campion is not going along with their plans. So they decide to bump him off. When he's leaving the hotel, this car comes over and rams him. And David, of course, as usual, is in the wrong place at the wrong time, or the right place at the wrong time, and witnesses the accident. And so he's the first person to the scene. He rushes over as usual and gets wrapped up in the plot.
Yeah.
It always happens that, he's now involved in the plot with this dying man,
And they take the car.
He's got this tape recorder. That's one of the big pieces of evidence. He's been taping the conversation you had with them, and David's got the little recorder in his hand, and he asks him to come in, get in the ambulance with him. So he does. In between him coming in and out of consciousness, this fella, he sort of fills him in on what's going on, and he mentions this guy called Jack. At this point, David doesn't know it's McGee. Talk about a dilemma when he does. But he says, hand the tape to Jack, put it in his hand. It's vital. This means the world to him, So David reluctantly says, all right, I will. Gives him a note, which David stupidly doesn't look at that point, with Jack's name on it and the locker key number, the key of the locker, number 14. He has to go to the Sahara hotel where Jack's staying, the same place, to hand over this tape to him, and then we get that classic kind of confrontation, but not facially, between the two of them when they're on the phone together. Your voice sounds awfully familiar. Do I know?
Oh, no. It's not my voice. You're thinking of somebody else.
I just love that. He says, why don't you come up here and give it to me yourself? I'm sure I know you. No.
No, you don't know. No, you don't know me.
No, I really can't stop. I've got to go back to work. I've left it with the clerk. You can pick it up there. And then of course McGee tries to trick him, doesn't he? Because he says, hold on a minute, someone's at the door. keeps him on the phone, and he's on his way down in the bloody elevator, isn't he? You know.
Yeah.
But David.
But David sees the elevator going down,
and he goes, I know what he's up to.
Boxing clever. You're
that
not going to
crafty
get
bastard.
Yeah.
So by the time he comes out of the elevator, of course, David's hidden himself behind a big plant. Yeah. And is observing.
But, he's not green at this point. So, why he thinks he can hide behind a plant.
McGee picks up the tape and off he goes, and would you want to step in here with the rest, like where this is heading? Anything you want to say at this point?
Yeah, I mean, basically, what I was also saying was, again, like Casino, it's the same thing. Tell the cops he got hit by a car. It was an accident, even though it wasn't. In the Casino movie. But I guess that was also a little bit par for the course back then. If you got into an argument with somebody or if you owed somebody money, I guess you had to either keep moving around or you had to leave. But yeah, I mean, that is kind of funny that, unfortunately, because he has a conscience, David Banner, or Bruce, I should say, either way, you know who I'm talking about. He has to help McGee, even though McGee probably wouldn't want to help him. If push came to shove, or he would have an ulterior motive, to do it. So it is kind of interesting to see David, in a way, playing the secret agent in effect, when he has to deal with all these mob people. And at first, they don't exactly, prove that it's the mob. But at the same point, they don't get heavy-handed until we get into one of those Hulk-out scenes, and at the end, where they finally, kind of admit they're in the mob now.
Yeah.
So it is kind of funny how they were right on that line again of not making it, silly or stereotypical. And I thought that the doctor was kind of interesting also. Even when that black gentleman, even though I guess he's a bodyguard, or he's not a bodyguard per se, but he might be the cleaner or whatever. I'm not exactly sure what terminology would be used for him. But at this point, he's even trying to ask questions of the doctor to try to figure out if the guy's still around, or if Banner's okay or whatever.
Yeah, just sort of sneakily trying to get, in a very polite manner, trying to find out, the dirt on it, where David is, how Campion's doing, because obviously he wants to really hear that the guy's dead, so he's sort of keen to know how he is, because really hoping that, he died, because that was, we're trying to kill him, but
I mean, obviously, they don't want to, they don't want their little racket or their little money-making scheme or whatever it is exactly that they're doing, that they don't really tell you what it is, actually. Whatever racket they're doing.
As to what exactly they've done bad, but obviously it's some sort of scam that's going on, I guess, involving a lot of money, I suppose, and he's been crossed in some way, I should imagine. So therefore he's getting his own back, but again, it doesn't really reveal too much about that. So we're left kind of guessing a bit as to the extent of it. But anyway, I mean, it must be serious, because obviously he was going to expose them, and they were trying to kill him for it, So so it was some serious business. McGee is with Wanda now, and asks her for the key to the locker, and meanwhile, of course, Don Marshall character has sniffed out David at the casino.
He finds him being a shell, working for him.
That's right. He says, he's over there. Look, God, talk about winning the jackpot. He's sitting over there, guy with the denim jacket. I think we better have a word with him. So they take him into Edler's office, and Edler starts grilling him about, business with Ed and all that. And David's, of course, denying all knowledge. I don't know what this is about. I just had had to hand this tape in to this guy called Jack. He wouldn't reveal it. Notice he protected McGee. He wouldn't say what McGee's name was. So I can't remember it. Interesting.
Yeah.
It didn't shock McGee. So that's quite telling. But anyway, he's not getting a lot out of him, and the guy's obviously getting increasingly angry with him. And but they learn a few things because they frisk him and find a bloody note in his pocket with McGee's name on it and the locker number and all that. So that must be where this thing is, or whatever. They're putting two and two together. That's the locker at the airport, because she was hanging around there earlier, he says. And we better go and check that out. And what about him? I'll deal with it. He gets on the phone. You can see David edging out the door,
Yeah.
As he's slipping away, kind of trying to be discreet. And the guy shouts out, "Hey, you! Where do you think you're going?"
I know. It's so funny that he didn't. I almost wanted him to say, "Oh, I'm going to join the marathon in Las Vegas," or something like that. But that would have ruined the dramatic part of it.
But he ends up catching up with David and grabs him and roughs him up a bit. He goes, "Oh, you want to fight, do you?" And he throws it. He really does throw him around. Jesus Christ, it's quite rough. And then you see the old eyes going, and he throws him down the staircase.
Rawr, here we are again. Rawr.
And there's this silence. There's this silence for a moment, and he goes, and he's sort of standing at the top. He goes, "Come up and face me. Do you want more, punk, or whatever?" And then you hear this, the shirt ripping and the guys go, "What the hell's he doing down there?" And then the next minute the Hulk's pounding up the bloody stairs, and throws him flying across the floor. It was quite funny, that bit.
Yeah.
I also like the bit where he's running amok around the casino and all the dancing girls are screaming, jumping out of the way. And
Well, yeah, the funny thing is not all of them, but after a while, unfortunately, in a very short, couple of seconds, it's sort of like a voiceover. You don't really see anybody, actually talking.
Yeah.
But but you hear the girl screaming at first, and then you hear, what is that, or who is he, or something like that.
Yeah, you always get these body voices, don't you? They probably just add in the dubbing stage. These people react and go, "Look at the size of that guy," and all that. All that kind of stuff. What is?
Yeah, that is kind of funny in a way that it's a little bit shameless in a way, that he's running through the casino and then he rips up the tables, and then you got this stereotypical cowboy or urban cowboy that I hit it or whatever, and nobody's paying attention to him,
Oh, he goes, looky here, I got the jackpot. Yeah.
Yeah, so he might have hit it, but nobody's paying attention anymore.
So he
don't even know.
Gives up.
Yeah.
And then you see the Hulk running down streets of Las Vegas with all the lights around him on a back projection.
Yeah, and it is kind of funny when he's changing back. I think two cops, in a car drive down the alley and see him.
Yeah.
But they don't seem to, one cop's like, "Let's run him in," and the other one's like, "No, he's already in bad shape." And then when I come back, don't be here. It's obviously, hopefully he wouldn't be. But it is kind of
in an hour. If you're not gone, I'll run you in.
Yeah.
But his shoulder injury, his shoulder injury is healing at that point, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, he's still a bit sore at the end of it. You see a little reference to that at the end of this story.
But he's got that super healing. He's the
Incredible Hulk.
He's got.
Yeah.
Well,
that's when he gets shot. Yeah, that's right. Later on in
he sort of got injured twice or 3 times, I guess, in the whole story. Yeah.
We got
That
thrown around down the stairs and everything at first and all that, so that must have done a bit of damage, initially.
Yeah.
I mean, until he hulks out, but initially as himself, that would have probably hurt him. Um, but yeah, so he does. He goes to this. You got this mechanic guy, this little garage, and he walks in with his shirt all ripped and all that, and he said, "Could I possibly buy a shirt and some boots off you?"
I know that is pretty funny, actually.
Yeah,
because he was barefoot at this point.
he was barefooted. Yeah. So the guy does give him something to put on, Oh, he says, the guy says something like one of these sort of like cliche jokes. He says, I've seen people ripping out of their shirts, but that's ridiculous, or something like that.
Yeah, that was a pretty funny. That was a pretty funny in joke there. Of course, the other funny thing is that this is sort of fitting in with the story. I mean, unless David, which he can't do because it's spur of the moment, unless somehow he was going to hide a backpack in a back alley or next to a trash can or whatever,
everywhere, wouldn't he?
And try to get his shirt and pants after he hulks out. But I mean, that was one of the that was one of the first jokes I heard about the show when it first came out. That it wasn't entirely, which it won't be anyway. But that it's kind of funny that. He's sort of lucky that he's strong enough and fierce enough that even if he falls off a cliff or whatever, he doesn't die because the Hulk seems to be, extremely powerful.
Through that gamma change, he's become, super healing too.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he hulks out in time before he hits the ground,
right,
he's all right.
Right.
He's not. I wouldn't say he's not indestructible. There is vulnerability for the Hulk. I mean, when he gets shot, he deals with it.
Well, all Marvel superheroes have a vulnerability.
Yeah, he has got vulnerability. Yeah,
all of them do.
You see, when he's wounded as the Hulk, he's he's clutching his arm in pain. Even as the Hulk. So those things do affect him.
So being shot stinks.
Yeah.
Well, of course, the other time that this is happening is when, David and Jack McGee kind of, finally work out that the mobsters are there, although they don't coordinate it, obviously, because they're not friends. So they get caught and, and all that, and they're getting ready to, get buried alive or take a dirt nap or whatever. Again, also in Casino. So I'm kind of wondering if they took the original story from the 70s and the 80s, or if there were so many things going on there that they just kind of wrote it in as underground but general knowledge of that type of mobster world, because technically they both should have died in the dirt nap that the bulldozer was ready.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things in the show that was a little unrealistic, because if McGee's in a sand pit and the sand's already on him and it doesn't stay on for more than 5 minutes, it's a little unrealistic.
Because he was unconscious. He was suffocated, wasn't he?
Right, yeah, exactly. So,
he wouldn't have woken up in time, I don't think, to get out.
Yeah. So,
because he was out for the count, that was the difference. David was awake, but McGee, they obviously probably, slugged him one with the gun on his head or something, knocked him out. But that was a good tense moment there as well. When you think they're going to meet, they're going to come face to face, McGee and the Hulk, McGee and David, in the car, because McGee's in the car and he says, "Get in with him," David's like really, really reluctant to get in there, and he sort of looks over slightly, very careful with his side view.
Well, yeah.
And the other tense moment was when the Hulk was, restoring to David, and he was like, "I recognize that face," and then all of a sudden they shoot the Hulk and he runs off. So I mean, those
because there was one point it could have been, it could have been revealed. When he was changing back, had it not been for the guy firing at the Hulk to stop him,
right?
they could
It
have
would have been.
they could have
it would
witnessed, him turning back to Banner, But again,
Right.
it got thwarted, dramatic reasons it got thwarted because the guy fires at the Hulk, it sets him off again, and the Hulk throws a rock at him, knocks the gun out of his hand, knocks him out, and
Well, yeah, I mean that's the other thing. I mean, I think McGee finally realized that it was a transformation.
he said, "What's happening to your face?" Doesn't he? Because his face is like glowing green. That's the interesting thing.
Yeah.
In the early series like that, they played around with the effects a bit till they got it kind of like right. And those early years, the first season at least, anyway, had this green glow effect on the transition, which they stopped doing later on. Away with that, they didn't have that green glow thing on his face. So I guess they were just, experimenting in those stages. The other thing was, I read up on the little tidbits about this episode, and one of them was that this was the first episode to feature the familiar sting at the beginning of the change. That ding thing. They hadn't done that before. So this is the first time it was actually that familiar thing that was featured.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of it was kind of funny in a way how, but even I was like, oh, come on, get the bad guys or whatever, because it was okay. The Hulk saved his life and McGee's, and took away the bulldozer and all that stuff. But I was afraid that the bad guys were going to get away with with the actual paperwork or whatever, the evidence. And I guess Hulk was able to throw or punch or whatever it was. I think he found a way to slam that door on the guy that wanted to shoot him or whatever.
Yeah.
And he fell to the ground. So I mean, that was kind of cute. Of course, they didn't say where he was going. They didn't say if he got one more check. It looked like he did when he was getting ready. Go ahead.
I'm gonna be losing the internet here for a sec, so I will talk to you later. Rawr.
All right, see. Thank you. Yeah, so we're almost at the end now, Alex. At this point, anyway, because the Hulk's gone. He jumped over the sand dune, and the next thing you see is David at the casino again, ready to leave, and he's with that girl again that was there earlier on. The friend he has there working there, and she sort of mentioned something about the fact that the evidence has been has gone, has been effective that they had, and has brought those guys to bear. I think, the crooks. So they are going to get, they are going to get the comeuppance. So he's happy about that. And as he doesn't have a great deal of luck, Paul David, he's kind of reiterated at this point, because she says, you want to have try your luck on the machine there. She gives him a quarter. He puts it in the one-armed bandit, and again, it just misses the jackpot. So, it's kind of like, it can only happen to me.
But yeah, in terms of the episode, he did kind of just scrape by. But I mean, it was a cute episode. I think there probably is better ones, but it was an amusing episode, and it was paying tribute to a detective novel, to a mob movie, to to other similar environments of the day. Unfortunately, I've never been to Vegas, so I don't know how true that is.
No,
but
I haven't been either.
Yeah. But I don't know if there's slot machines everywhere. I don't know if that's true or not. But as this was in the 70s, and I don't know what they were allowed to shoot. I don't know how much they could show of Vegas. I don't know if they had to get a permit or whatever.
Yeah, it may have been another location that they just dressed to look a bit like a casino set. it might not have been a real casino they shot in.
Yeah, and
probably not,
also,
actually, especially when he was breaking up the breaking up the set. It's highly unlikely it would have been a real place that they did that in. They would have done that in a purpose-built place, I would have thought. You know, when he smashes up stuff, that's usually done in the soundstage. You know.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're not going to let them break up.
They couldn't afford to have any of that around, you know. Thank you so much for being on, Alex, and joining me on this to talk about this episode. And thanks to Sue as well, who popped in there. We'll be back, of course, with another Incredible Hulk podcast very soon. So I hope you'll join us for that. Until then, don't Hulk out.